I'm Victoria Whitmore, 29, and until a few weeks ago, I thought I knew exactly how my life was going to go. Project manager at a mid-sized tech startup, decent salary, long hours, good benefits. 4 years in love with a man I thought I'd marry. Saturday mornings in our downtown apartment, sunlight on the hardwood, coffee on the table, his hoodie thrown over the back of a chair. The apartment was technically his. Michael Torres found it and signed the lease before I ever moved in. My name never made it onto the paperwork. I paid half the rent and utilities, bought groceries, decorated the place with plants and throw pillows. It felt like ours, even if on paper it was his. That Saturday started like any other. I was curled up on the couch, one leg tucked under me, scrolling through my phone. My coffee was cooling on the table, the kind of quiet morning that feels like a reward for surviving the work week. The bedroom door opened, and Michael walked out already dressed. That was my first red flag. Saturday mornings were usually sweatpants and bedhead. Today he had on dark jeans, a fitted navy button-down, and the watch he saved for real outings. His hair was styled. I caught a faint whiff of his cologne as he passed the couch. "You're up early," I said, eyes still on my phone. "Yeah," he replied, checking himself in the hallway mirror. He adjusted his collar, smoothed a wrinkle that wasn't there. "You look nice," I added, finally looking up. "Going somewhere?" He kept his eyes on his own reflection. "Just meeting someone for coffee." Just. That word sat wrong in my chest. Too smooth, too casual, like he'd practiced saying it out loud. "Oh?" I asked. "Who with?" He grabbed his keys from the bowl by the door, then his phone, then put them back down like he was stalling for time. "Riley," he said finally. "She texted me yesterday. She's in town for the weekend." I knew that name. Riley Hart, the ex-girlfriend from before me, the one with the corporate job in the Audi, who always had a different city in her Instagram stories. The one Michael told me was emotionally unavailable, obsessed with her image and status. The one he swore he'd never go back to. "Riley," I repeated slowly. "Your ex Riley?" He was looking at his phone now, typing something, thumb flying across the screen. "Yeah, we're just catching up. It's been years." I put my own phone down. The room suddenly felt smaller. "So," I said carefully, "we're meeting her for coffee?" This was the moment. The one where he could smile and say, "Of course," or roll his eyes and tell me not to be paranoid, or literally anything that acknowledged we were a team. Instead, he looked up from his phone, his expression blank, maybe a little annoyed that I was even asking. "It's just coffee," he said. "We're catching up." He paused. Then, "You're not invited." The words landed like a glass breaking on tile. Clean, sharp, impossible to unhear. I don't know why I answered the way I did. Maybe because something inside me snapped into focus. "Understood," I said. Flat. Final. For a second, he just stared at me, like he was waiting for the argument, the jealousy, the fight. The part where I begged or negotiated my way back into his plans. When it didn't come, he blinked, recovered, checked his watch. "I'll be back in a couple hours," he said. "Okay." He left 5 minutes later. The door clicked shut and the apartment went very, very quiet. I sat there, staring at the door, at the space he'd just walked through, and felt this strange, icy calm settle over me. In my wallet, tucked behind my debit card, was a folded receipt from the jeweler across from my office. Custom engagement ring, white gold band, small diamond. I knew exactly what I could afford and what I couldn't, and Michael had always said if he ever got married, he'd want something simple, classic, nothing flashy. I'd been saving for 8 months, skipping takeout, walking instead of ride shares, saying no to weekend trips with friends. I made the final payment on Thursday. I was supposed to pick up the ring that day. The plan was to propose that night. Dinner at his favorite Italian place. Wine, pasta, walking home under the streetlights. I'd rehearsed the words in my head 100 times, my fingers brushing the outline of the ring box in my pocket in every version of the scene. Instead, I pulled out the receipt with trembling hands and stared at the printed order number until the ink blurred. Then I picked up my phone and dialed the jeweler. "Hi, this is Victoria Whitmore," I said when the woman answered. My voice sounded oddly steady. "Order number 4782. I need to cancel the ring and process a refund." There was a pause on the other end. "Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Is everything okay?" "No," I said, "but I do need to cancel the order." "Of course," she replied gently. "The refund will go back to your original card. It should process within 3 to 5 business days, though the deposit portion will be available within 48 hours. Thank you. I hung up, set the phone down, and just sat there for a minute, listening to the hum of the fridge and the faint traffic outside the window. Then I stood up and started packing. I wasn't frantic. There was no dramatic tearing things off hangers or throwing clothes into bags. I went into the bedroom, pulled my suitcase out from under the bed, and opened the closet. Everything that was mine went into the suitcase. Everything that was clearly ours, but legally his, stayed. My clothes, my skincare, the books he never touched, my laptop, the headphones I bought myself as a promotion gift, a few photos I'd printed of my family and friends. The TV stayed. The couch stayed. The kitchen table we picked together, but he technically paid for, stayed. His name was on the lease. Let him keep the furniture too. It took about 3 hours to strip my life down to what fit into a couple suitcases and some boxes I found in the hall closet. I made multiple trips down to my car, the elevator doors opening and closing on my new reality. On my second trip, I texted my friend Chris. Hey, things blew up with Michael. Can I crash with you for a bit? He responded almost immediately. Yeah, of course. Are you okay? I'll explain later, I wrote back. By the time I finished packing, the apartment looked wrong. My plants were gone. The throw blankets I loved were folded in a box. My side of the closet was empty. It still looked lived in, but it didn't look like my life anymore. I did one last sweep, checking drawers and under the bed. Satisfied I'd gotten everything that mattered, I sat back on the couch with my last box at my feet and waited. He came home around 6. I heard his keys in the lock, the door opening, then his voice carrying into the living room. He was humming something, in a good mood. Hey, he called, stepping inside. You will not believe. He stopped. His eyes landed on the half-empty bookshelves, the missing plants, the suitcase by the door. Then on me, sitting on the couch, hands folded in my lap, that last box beside me. Vic, he said slowly, what are you doing? How was coffee? I asked. He blinked, thrown. It was fine. Why are you packed? We're done, I said. He laughed once, not because it was funny, but because he didn't know what else to do. What? We're done, I repeated. I'm moving out. Victoria, what are you talking about? His voice was rising. Because I had coffee with Riley? You're being insane right now. You're right, I said, standing and lifting the box. You said it was just coffee, and I'm just moving out. You can't be serious. He followed me toward the door. 4 years and you just leave? Over this? I turned to look at him, really look at him, the man I was supposed to propose to that night. This morning, I said quietly, you told me I wasn't invited to your life. I'm just accepting that. For a heartbeat, something like regret flashed across his face. Then defensiveness crashed over it. Victoria, you're overreacting. You're twisting my words. It was just coffee. If it was just coffee, I asked, why wasn't I invited? He opened his mouth, closed it. No answer. That's what I thought, I said. I opened the door. Your name's on the lease, I added. You can keep everything. I took what's mine. Vic, stop, he said, panic starting to creep into his tone. Can we just talk about this? There's nothing to talk about. I stepped into the hallway, the box heavy in my arms, but my chest strangely light. He didn't follow me down to the parking lot. Chris helped me carry the last of my stuff into his small apartment, stacking boxes by the wall, clearing a spot on his couch for me. He didn't push for details until we were both sitting down, breathing hard. What happened? He finally asked. He told me I wasn't invited, I said. So I believed him. That night, I slept on his lumpy couch, staring at the ceiling in the dark, listening to a different refrigerator hum. By morning, my phone was full of unread texts from Michael. Where did you go? We need to talk. You're being ridiculous. Please answer me. I didn't respond to any of them. Around 9 a.m., as I was nursing a mug of coffee in Chris's tiny kitchen, my phone lit up with a call from an unknown number. For a moment, I considered letting it go to voicemail. Then, without entirely knowing why, I slid my thumb across the screen and answered. Hello? It was an unfamiliar number, different area code. Hello? I said. There was a beat of silence, then, Victoria? Finally. Why did you block me? Michael. I could picture him instantly, standing in his apartment, one hand in his hair, pacing. It was surreal how quickly my body reacted. Heart rate up, palms damp, like my nervous system still hadn't gotten the memo that we were done. I blocked you, I said, because we don't have anything left to talk about. That's ridiculous, he snapped. We've been together 4 years, and you just walk out because I had coffee with an old friend? I stared at the chipped edge of Chris's countertop, The mug was warm between my hands. I didn't leave because you had coffee with an old friend, I said quietly. I left because you told me I wasn't invited. He scoffed. Oh my God, you're taking that way too literally. That's the thing, Michael, I said. I don't think I am. Silence hummed on the line. I could hear faint city noise behind him, a car horn, someone shouting in the distance. You're being completely irrational, he said finally. It was just coffee. We talked about work and life. Nothing happened. I stared at the steam curling up from my coffee. Did you cheat on me? I asked. What? No, of course not. Okay, I said. I believe you. He sounded thrown. You do? Yeah, but that's not the point. Then what is the point, Vic? His voice cracked a little. Explain it to me, because none of this makes sense. You made a choice, I said. You chose to reach out to your ex. You chose to meet her alone. And when I asked if we were meeting her, you chose to look me in the eye and tell me I wasn't invited. You didn't just forget to include me. You deliberately excluded me. He was quiet for a beat. Then, you're twisting this into something it's not. No, I said. I'm finally refusing to twist it into something it isn't. So that's it? You're just ending everything? I'm not ending it over coffee, I said. I'm ending it because you told me, with your own mouth, that I'm not part of your decisions when it comes to your ex. I'm just respecting that, permanently. On the other end, I heard his breathing change, sharper, more panicked. So you're really not going to talk to me about this? He asked. What do you want me to say? I asked back. That I'm okay with you going on little nostalgia dates with Riley, as long as you send me a calendar invite? It wasn't a date, he said. Then why wasn't I invited? There it was again, that awful, telling silence. I need to go, I said. Wait, Victoria. I hung up, then I blocked that number too. Chris was leaning against the kitchen doorway, pretending he hadn't been listening, but clearly having heard enough. That him? He asked. Yeah. You okay? I let out a long breath I didn't realize I was holding. Not even a little, but it's done. He nodded slowly. You know you can stay here as long as you need, right? I know. The next few days were a blur of work and vibrating phones. Every time I thought maybe he'd stopped, another unknown number would light up my screen. I stopped answering entirely. The first voicemail he left was all anger, accusing me of throwing everything away. By the third, he'd shifted into pleading. By the fifth, he sounded exhausted. I blocked each new number as it came. When the unknown numbers slowed down, the text started. Not from him, from his friends. First was Alice, his old roommate from college. Long paragraph, lots of moral high ground. I don't know exactly what happened, but Michael is devastated. You're being cruel. 4 years deserves a conversation, not ghosting. I stared at the text for a full minute, feeling that old, familiar urge to defend myself, to over-explain. I set the phone down instead. Then Amanda called, his best friend, the one who always joked that she'd vouch for me to his parents someday. Her name lit up my screen while I was sitting in a conference room at work, waiting for a meeting to start. I let it go to voicemail. She called again at lunch. The third time, I picked up. Hey, I said. Victoria, what the hell is going on? She blurted. No hello, no warm-up. Michael is a wreck. He said you moved out because he got coffee with Riley? That can't be the whole story. I leaned back in my chair in an empty corner of the break room. That's one way to describe it. So what actually happened? She pressed. I mean, yeah, I think he was stupid for going, but moving out? Completely cutting him off? Isn't that a little extreme? I closed my eyes for a second. Did he tell you the exact words he used? What? Did he tell you that when I asked if we were meeting her, he told me I wasn't invited? There was a pause. He said it came out wrong, Amanda said carefully. That he didn't mean it like that. He meant it enough to repeat it, I said. Out loud. To my face. Then he walked out the door anyway. Okay, that is not good, she admitted. But still, 4 years, Vic. You guys are solid. Isn't this something you can work through? I stared at the vending machine across from me, at the rows of snacks behind glass. I imagined the ring receipt still folded in my wallet. I was going to propose to him that night, I said. The line went silent. I had a ring on hold, I continued, voice steady, surprisingly. Custom. I made the final payment on Thursday. I had reservations for dinner. The plan was to pick up the ring that afternoon and ask him to marry me. Oh my God, Amanda whispered. The morning of the day I was going to propose, I said. He got dressed up, told me he was meeting his ex, and when I asked if we were meeting her, he told me I wasn't invited. So, I swallowed. No, I don't think there's anything to work through. I had no idea, she said. The anger had drained out of her voice completely. He didn't tell me that part. Of course he didn't, I said. It makes him look worse. I don't even know what to say, she murmured. You don't have to say anything, I replied. I just want you to understand this isn't about a cup of coffee. It's about what that coffee revealed. She was quiet for a long moment. Yeah, she said finally. Okay, I get it now. I'm sorry, Vic. Thanks for calling, I said. After that, the messages stopped coming from his friends. And slowly, they stopped coming from unknown numbers, too. For a while, my life shrank down to the essentials. Wake up on Chris's couch, shower, go to work, come back, try to sleep in a room that did not smell like him. I kept my head down at the office. My manager noticed something was off and pulled me aside. Everything okay, Whitmore? He asked. You've seemed distracted. Just some personal stuff, I said. I'm handling it. If you need time off. I'm good, I lied, but thank you. I wasn't good. But I also wasn't going to collapse in the middle of the open office and cry about being uninvited to my own relationship. A few nights later, I was at Chris's place. We were both on the couch, a movie playing half-watched in the background, controllers abandoned on the coffee table. I was scrolling through my email out of habit when a subject line caught my eye. Please read this, Victoria. The sender name was an address I didn't recognize, but the first line of the email preview said, "It's Michael." My thumb hovered for a second before I tapped. Victoria, I know you've blocked me everywhere, so I had to make a new email just to reach you. I'm not trying to harass you, I promise. I just need you to know something. I read the whole thing in one slow pass, then I read it again. He wrote that he'd gone to the jeweler because he had a feeling. They told him there had been a custom ring order in my name. They told him I'd canceled it the same day he went to see Riley. You were going to propose to me, weren't you? He said he finally understood why I walked out. That it wasn't about coffee. It was about him choosing to exclude me while I was choosing him forever. I don't deserve another chance, and I'm not asking for one. I just needed you to know I get it now. I know what I lost, and I know I did it to myself. I'm so sorry. At the bottom, he'd written my name 3 times, like he was trying to conjure me. Victoria Vic, Phi. I stared at the screen until the words stopped looking like English. You okay? Chris asked gently. He emailed me, I said. Went to the jeweler, found out about the ring. What did he say? That he understands now. I let out a breathy laugh that didn't feel like mine. That he ruined everything for an ego trip. What do you feel? Chris asked. I thought about it, really thought about it. I don't know, I admitted. Not what I expected to feel. I thought I'd feel vindicated, or furious, or vindictively satisfied. But instead, there was just this deep, bone-deep tiredness, like the adrenaline had finally burned out and left me hollow. Without giving myself time to overthink it, I hit delete. The email disappeared from my inbox. Did you respond? Chris asked. No, I said. There's nothing left to say. I set my phone face down on the coffee table. We went back to half watching the movie, neither of us really following the plot. The next day at lunch, as I sat alone at my desk, another email notification flashed in the corner of my screen. Different address this time. Subject line, we should talk. I almost deleted it on sight. Then I saw the sender's name, Riley Hart. It took me 3 whole minutes to convince myself I wasn't hallucinating. Riley Hart, Michael's ex-girlfriend, the woman he dressed up for, the woman he excluded me for. I clicked the email, slowly, like peeling back a bandage I didn't remember getting. From Riley Hart. Subject, we should talk. Victoria, I know we've never met, and I'm sorry to reach out. This probably feels invasive. But I heard what happened. I didn't know until today. I think you deserve to know the truth about that coffee. First, it wasn't my idea. Michael reached out to me 2 weeks ago. He said he wanted to catch up. I didn't think much of it. We dated years ago. We ended badly, but not explosively, and I assumed it was innocent. At coffee, he spent most of the time talking about you, your job, your apartment, your life together. I could tell he was gauging something, testing something. Honestly, it felt like he wanted to see whether there was still anything between us. There wasn't, at least not on my end. I told him I was seeing someone seriously. He seemed disappointed. When he left, I thought it was strange, but I didn't think it was my problem. When I heard through a mutual friend that you two broke up, I felt awful. I never meant to be part of hurting anyone. You should know that I did not invite him. I did not flirt with him. I didn't ask him to come alone. I genuinely believe he was looking back at something he already knew wasn't right. I'm sorry you're dealing with this. You seem like you deserve better. Riley. I didn't know how long I sat there reading and rereading the message, my lunch completely untouched, my fork dangling from my hand. Riley's tone was calm, measured. not defensive, not manipulative. And worst of all, she wasn't wrong. Michael had been the one to reach out. He'd been testing the waters with a woman he once loved and ultimately left behind. He didn't want her. He wanted to know that she wanted him. It wasn't about her. It wasn't even about me. It was about his ego. My stomach twisted. When I finally looked away from the screen, my reflection stared back at me in the dark monitor frame. I whispered the words out loud. He wanted to see if he could still get her back. And that was the moment, the first moment, I realized this breakup wasn't an explosion. It was an autopsy. I hadn't just walked out on a mistake. I'd walked out on a man who wasn't sure about me. And suddenly, I didn't feel tired anymore. I felt angry. The universe apparently heard me because Monday morning things got worse. Much worse. Around 10 a.m., my manager Elliot pinged me. "Can you come to my office? HR will be joining." My blood went cold. HR? For what? I walked down the hall, each step thicker than the last. When I entered the office, my stomach dropped. Sitting beside Elliot was a woman I vaguely recognized. Straight hair, stiff blazer, expression like she was about to deliver a parking ticket. "Victoria," Elliot said, "this is Jennifer." Jennifer, Michael's cousin, the one whose Christmas party photos he showed me once. "Hi," she said professionally. Too professionally. "Please have a seat." Every instinct in my body screamed no, but I sat. Elliot folded his hands. "We've received a complaint." I blinked. "A complaint?" Jennifer clicked open a folder. The sound was unnecessarily loud. "We've been informed," she said, "that you have been harassing an ex-partner, making threats, refusing communication, creating hostile situations." I stared at her, then at Elliot, then back at her. "Are you serious?" "This is a formal investigation," she said. "No," I replied, voice sharpening. "This is a conflict of interest." Elliot frowned slightly. "Jennifer, is the complainant someone you know personally?" Jennifer didn't blink. "My relationship to the complainant is irrelevant. We're required to investigate all claims." My hands curled into fists in my lap. Michael. He had filed this. He had actually weaponized his cousin in HR against me. "Let me be very clear," I said, pulling out my phone. My voice was steady in a way that frightened even me. "I haven't contacted Michael once since I moved out. I blocked him on every platform. He has been calling me from different numbers." I tapped open my blocked call list, turned the screen to them. Dates, times, area codes, 5 different numbers, all blocked. Then I opened the messages from his friends. Then the email screenshots I'd saved, all neatly time-stamped. Jennifer's confidence faltered, just slightly. "This still needs to be investigated," she began. "It absolutely does," Elliot cut in crisply, "by someone who isn't related to the complainant." Jennifer's jaw clenched. "That's not necessary." "It is," Elliot said. "I'll bring in HR from the other office." The silence that followed was thick and humiliating for all of us. "Are we done here?" I asked. "For now," Elliot said gently. "We'll be in touch." I stood, smoothed my shirt, and walked out without looking back. My vision was vibrating at the edges. I made it to the nearest stairwell before the tears came. Not because I was sad, because I was furious and terrified. Michael hadn't just hurt my feelings. He'd tried to hurt my future, my career, my stability. He wanted me to pay for leaving. Chris found me hunched over my laptop that night, surrounded by documents and screenshots. "What happened?" he asked. "He tried to get me fired," I said, through his cousin. Chris stared, hard. "That's psychotic." "I know." "You need to talk to a lawyer." "I know." "You want a beer?" Yeah." He handed me one. I took it, hands still shaking. 2 days later, external HR cleared me, apologized, filed a note in Jennifer's record about the conflict of interest. The complaint was marked unfounded, but something inside me had already changed. Whatever soft, nostalgic part of me still felt connected to Michael, it died in that HR office, burned down clean. I was done. Not heartbroken, not mourning, not longing. Done. But the universe wasn't finished yet. Friday night, I finally agreed to go out with Chris and 2 of his coworkers. We just wanted pizza, cheap beer, and a game on TV. For the first hour, I felt almost normal, almost like myself. Then the bar door opened, and Michael walked in. His eyes scanned the room, found me instantly, and everything shifted. His face changed. Surprise, then relief, then hope. He started walking toward me. Chris leaned in. "You want to leave?" I stared at Michael, closing the distance. "No," I said. "I'm not leaving. I'm allowed to be here." Michael stopped at our table. "Victoria," he breathed, and the whole bar seemed to hush. He stood there, breath uneven, hands trembling just enough for me to notice. "Can we talk?" Michael asked. His voice was soft, Too soft. The kind of soft a person uses when they expect forgiveness. No, I said, calm, Slurramald. Victoria, please. He looked around, as if begging the room to support him. Just 5 minutes. Michael, I said, there is nothing to talk about. His jaw flexed. You walked out. You vanished. You blocked everything. 4 years, and that's how little it meant to you? I set down my beer. The entire table stilled. Even Chris, who was normally the king of diffusing awkward moments, stayed silent. It meant something, I said, past tense. Something in his face cracked. I messed up, he said. I know I did. I shouldn't have said you weren't invited. It came out wrong. That wasn't a slip, I replied. It was a message. He shook his head hard. I didn't mean it like that. But you said it exactly like that. I leaned back. And you still went. People at nearby tables were openly listening now. Phones paused mid-scroll. Beer half lifted toward lips. Even the bartender leaned subtly closer. Victoria, it was just coffee, he said. You walked out over coffee with an ex. That's insane. You keep saying it was just coffee. I stared at him. Fine, let's accept that. Then answer one question, Michael. He swallowed. Okay. If it was really nothing, why wasn't I invited? His mouth opened, closed. No words came out. Exactly. So, I said quietly, you want to know why I left? That's why. He looked desperate now. I didn't cheat. I swear I didn't cheat. I know, I said. That's the problem. He blinked. What? It would almost be easier if it were cheating. At least that has a clear line. But you didn't cheat. You just tested the waters. Reached back to someone you weren't even sure you wanted. And you didn't want me there to get in the way of your nostalgia fantasy. He flinched like I'd slapped him. Chris muttered under his breath, Jesus Christ. Michael raked a hand through his hair. It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that. I corrected him, and Riley confirmed it. That stopped him cold. He froze, all expression wiped from his face. She emailed me, I said. Told me you reached out to her first. Told me you spent the whole time talking about our relationship, and told me you seemed disappointed when she said she'd moved on. A ripple of, oh, shit, moved across the bar. I wasn't disappointed, he snapped instantly, voice rising. You weren't disappointed she moved on, I said. You were disappointed you couldn't prove to yourself that she hadn't. He looked like he might be sick. You're twisting everything, he said hoarsely. No, I said. I'm finally telling the truth out loud. His voice broke. Vic, I love you. You know that. Then you shouldn't have gone. I didn't know you were going to propose, he blurted. The entire bar went silent. Even the TV volume felt lower. I stared at him, at the panic in his eyes, at the truth he had just flung onto the table. Would it have changed anything? I asked softly. He froze again. Would knowing about the ring have stopped you from reaching out to Riley? No answer. Would it have stopped you from meeting her alone? No answer. Would it have stopped you from telling me I wasn't invited? Still nothing. The silence between us became a living thing. No, I said, it wouldn't have. The truth hung there, undeniable, inevitable. So that's it? He whispered. You're just leaving? You left first, I whispered back. You just didn't pack a suitcase to do it. His throat bobbed as he swallowed hard. I made a mistake, he said. One mistake. A mistake is forgetting to buy milk, I said. What you did was a series of choices. He shook his head, tears welling. I didn't mean... And then, I added sharply, you filed an HR complaint against me. A gasp rippled across the table. Michael's face turned white. I didn't... Jennifer just... Spare me, I snapped. Jennifer ambushed me in a meeting with accusations of harassment. I had to defend my job because you were angry. I walked away. People murmured. Someone whispered, what the hell? You tried to punish me for leaving, I said. You tried to hurt my career. I didn't want that, he insisted near tears. I was desperate. That's not desperation, I said. That's cruelty. He stared at me, eyes shining, chest heaving. I'm getting help, he whispered. Therapy. I'm trying. I'm glad, I said. I really am. I hope it helps. But you're still leaving me, he said, voice breaking. I left the moment you made it clear I wasn't part of your decisions anymore. I stood. You told me I wasn't invited, Michael, I said. I'm just finally listening. He stared at me like he was watching his future walk out the door. I stepped past him, Chris rising immediately to follow. As we walked out, Michael said quietly, brokenly, please don't go. I didn't look back, not once. Outside on the sidewalk, Chris exhaled hard. That, he muttered, was a damn earthquake. I felt strangely calm, like a storm had passed through me and scrubbed everything raw and clean. You okay? He asked. I looked up at the night sky, at the neon bar sign flickering above us. For the first time in weeks, I said, I think I am. Back at Chris's apartment later that night, I replayed the scene over and over in my head. His face, his voice, his regret, his fear. And every time doubt tried to creep into the edges of my mind, I went back to that morning on the couch, back to the navy shirt, the cologne, the mirror, the purse on the hook, and the words he chose, cold and clean. "You're not invited." And the doubt disappeared. The following week felt strangely quiet, not peaceful, but muffled, like life was happening behind a pane of thick glass. No missed calls, no unknown numbers, no emails from burner accounts or half-formed apologies. Just silence. And honestly, it was a relief. I still woke up each morning on Chris's slightly lumpy couch, wrapped in an old blanket he'd stolen from a college dorm. I still checked my phone out of habit, still expected some kind of emotional fallout to come crashing down. But nothing came. By Tuesday, it hit me. Michael wasn't going to reach out again. Maybe because he finally understood. Maybe because he was ashamed. Maybe because the bar incident had been a final, public reckoning he couldn't walk back from. Whatever the reason, the noise stopped. And in that silence, my life slowly began to rearrange itself. 1. The HR fallout. On Wednesday afternoon, Elliot called me into a small conference room. He looked uncomfortable, but not with me. "Victoria," he began, "I wanted to let you know that Jennifer requested a transfer to another department." I blinked, surprised. "Really?" He nodded. "It's not directly because of what happened, but let's say the conflict of interest issue raised eyebrows in upper management." My stomach fluttered with something that felt like justice. Elliot sighed. "I'm truly sorry you were put in that position. It shouldn't have happened." "Thank you," I said quietly. "We're updating protocols," he added. "In-house HR can't handle interpersonal claims involving relatives. That's been officially clarified across the company." I almost laughed. A bitter, disbelieving laugh. "That's good," I said. "I'm glad." Walking out of that room, I realized the knot in my stomach had loosened. Just a little. 2. The new apartment. By Friday, I'd made a decision. It was time to stop living out of boxes and suitcases. I found a small, affordable one-bedroom 10 minutes from my office. Sunny windows, creaky wooden floors, a tiny kitchen with a single counter, and absolutely nothing inside it. It was perfect. Mine, entirely mine. Chris helped me carry my boxes up 2 flights of stairs, refusing to let me touch the heavier ones. "See," he said, wiping sweat off his forehead. "Upgrade. No ex-boyfriends arguing about where to put your plants." I smiled. "I don't even know if I have room for plants." "You'll make it work," he said. "You always do." And that night, standing in the empty echo of my new living room, I let myself breathe for the first time in a long time. There was no furniture, no Wi-Fi yet, just a sleeping bag, a folding chair, and the hum of possibilities. But it felt like freedom. 3. The ring refund. The refund finally hit my account that weekend. 8 months of savings. 8 months of dreaming. 8 months of imagining a future with someone who was already looking over his shoulder. I stared at the number on the screen for a long time. Then I transferred almost all of it into my savings account. Untouched. Untainted. Only then did I feel the weight of that ring truly leave me. 4. The check-in from Amanda. Sunday morning, my phone buzzed with a message. "Amanda." I hesitated, then opened it. "Hey, Vic. Just checking in. I won't get in the middle of anything, I promise. But I want you to know Michael moved back in with his parents for a bit. He's in therapy. He's struggling a lot. Please don't feel guilty. You didn't do this. He knows that now." I stared at the message for a long moment. I didn't respond, not because I was angry, but because there was nothing to say. Compassion wasn't the same as reconciliation, and I had to protect the life I was rebuilding. But I did hope he got better, truly. 5. A small, unexpected step forward. The next week, one of Chris's coworkers invited me to a friend's birthday dinner. I almost said no, but Chris nudged me. "You've been eating instant noodles in your new apartment for 3 days, he said. "Go socialize before you start naming your silverware." I rolled my eyes but agreed. The dinner was nothing wild, just a group of people laughing over shared appetizers and cheap wine. But one person caught my attention, a guy named Adam. Quiet, easy to talk to, asked real questions instead of superficial ones. We exchanged numbers, not with sparks or fireworks, just with genuine curiosity. It felt normal, which somehow felt extraordinary. We texted once later that week, a simple conversation, no expectations. And for the first time, I realized I wasn't afraid of connection. I was just done with the wrong kind of connection. 6. Saturday morning. Alone. Finally. A week later, I woke up in my new apartment. Sunlight poured across the floor. The air smelled faintly of the new coffee maker I'd splurged on. I made myself a cup, curled into the one armchair I'd bought secondhand, and let the silence fill the room. Not lonely, not sad, just mine. Saturday mornings used to belong to us. Me and Michael, coffee together, lazy plans, quiet intimacy. Now they belong to me. Entirely. And maybe someday I'd share them again. But for now, I liked having them all to myself. Life didn't snap back to normal. It bent into a new shape, one I wasn't expecting, one I didn't always understand, but one I slowly learned to live in. The first few weeks in my new apartment were messy in the quietest ways. Half unpacked boxes, cheap takeout because I didn't have real pots yet, laundry baskets doubling as nightstands, silence that echoed too loudly at night. But the strange, beautiful thing about starting over is that even the emptiness feels like possibility. Every evening after work, I added one new thing to the place. A lamp, a bookshelf, a secondhand rug that smelled like cinnamon and dust until I washed it twice, a small table by the window where I could drink my morning coffee. Piece by piece, it stopped feeling like a temporary shelter and started feeling like a home. 1, a promotion I didn't see coming. 2 weeks after the bar scene, Elliot called me into his office. I braced myself, trauma reflex maybe. But instead of another HR nightmare, he slid a folder across the desk. Senior project manager, he said. You've earned it. I blinked. What, Elliot, this is... You've shown more resilience and professionalism in the last month than most people show in their entire careers, he said. You deserve this. I walked out of that office floating. For weeks, Michael had been the axis my life spun around. The breakup, the harassment complaint, the confrontation at the bar. But now my life was shifting onto a new axis, me. 2, the last email I ever got from him. One quiet Thursday evening, as I was assembling a wobbly IKEA shelf and swearing under my breath, my phone buzzed. A new email. From Michael Torres. Subject, no subject. For a moment, I just stared at it. My chest tightened. My fingers trembled. Then I opened it. Victoria, don't worry, this isn't a plea or a speech or anything like that. I just wanted to say thank you. Not for leaving. I hate that you left. But for showing me who I became. I'm ashamed, truly. I told my therapist about everything. Riley, the HR complaint, the bar. He said I've spent years needing to feel chosen, special, validated, even when I already had someone choosing me every day. I'm working on it. I know that doesn't undo anything. You don't have to respond. I just hope you're okay. Michael. I read it twice, and for the first time, nothing inside me twisted or cracked. No urge to cry. No old instinct to fix things. No flicker of hope or nostalgia. Just acceptance. I closed the email. I didn't archive it. I didn't star it. I didn't reread it later. I simply let it live and die in the inbox. And I never replied. 3, Chris, a friend I didn't realize I needed. After everything he'd done for me, the couch, the late night talks, the quiet presence, I tried to hand Chris an envelope with 2 months' rent. He pushed it back across the table. No, he said. Absolutely not. Chris, you've let me stay for free. Vic, he interrupted, leaning forward. You don't pay rent to friends who are bleeding. That's not how it works. The lump in my throat surprised me. Thank you, I whispered. He shrugged. Just naming your firstborn after me, preferably something badass. Christina, or Crystal Skull. I laughed so hard I cried. Sometimes the people who hold you together aren't the ones you expect. 4, Adam. I didn't expect anything from Adam, the guy I exchanged numbers with at that birthday dinner, but we ended up texting here and there. A meme, a link to a music playlist, a screenshot of an awful dating app message he received, which made us both laugh. 2 weeks later, he asked if I wanted to grab dinner. I almost said no. Not because I wasn't interested, but because I was terrified. What if I wasn't ready? What if I made the wrong choice again? What if I dragged old wounds into something new? But I went, and it was nice. Not electric, not sweeping romance, not fireworks. Just 2 people talking, laughing, being human together. And maybe that was enough for now. Maybe that was exactly what I needed. 5, quiet Saturdays. The hardest part of the breakup surprised me. It wasn't the nights. It wasn't the loneliness. It wasn't missing him. It was Saturday mornings. For years, Michael and I had made coffee together on Saturdays. Same mugs, same routine. Quiet, lazy mornings with nowhere to be. The first Saturday alone in my new apartment was brutal. But the second was easier. The third, easier still. And by the 4th Saturday morning, I found myself sitting at my tiny window table, watching sunlight spill across the floor, holding a warm mug between my hands, and smiling. My life felt lighter, not happier, not perfect, just lighter. Like I had set down a weight I didn't know I'd been carrying. And I realized something simple but powerful. I didn't miss Michael. I missed the version of me who didn't know better. The version who believed that love automatically meant respect. That commitment automatically meant inclusion. That 4 years automatically meant forever. Now I knew better. Now I could choose better. 6. What I learned. People kept asking if I regretted leaving. If 4 years shouldn't have earned him a second chance. If maybe I should have fought harder. But here's the truth. You should never have to fight to be respected. That's the baseline. That's the bare minimum. Respect isn't a reward, it's a requirement. And the moment someone tells you, with words, with actions, with choices, that you're not invited to their life, believe them. Walk away. Even if it hurts, even if it's messy, even if it's the last thing you ever thought you'd do. Walk away. Some losses are actually freedom in disguise. 7. The final unraveling. A month after the breakup, I realized something monumental. Michael wasn't the villain of my story. He wasn't the hero either. He was just a man, flawed, confused, lonely, lost. And I was a woman who loved him longer than she should have, then finally loved herself enough to leave. And that was the end. That was the whole story. I didn't need closure. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need answers. I just needed distance. And now I had it. One quiet night, as I sat in my little apartment folding laundry and listening to distant traffic through the window, it hit me. Michael wasn't in my life anymore, not even as a shadow, not even as a memory that hurt. He wasn't gone. He just didn't belong to my story anymore. And I didn't belong to his. In that moment, I felt whole again. Not because of someone new, not because the pain vanished, not because everything made sense, but because I came back to myself. And for the first time in a long time, I liked who I found.